Hey, what's up guys, and welcome back to another League of Legends guide video. And in today's guide, we're going to be looking over at IRELIA. Now with all the Season 9 changes coming, it is the best time to probably explain about IRELIA and what other things that we're going to be looking at, how this champion is played, how well you can play this champion, and what other things you can do with this champion. Well, this champion is actually known to be one of the best snowballing and best fighter champions that's currently on League of Legends, and this is especially after the rework that she received just a couple of months ago. So firstly, we'll talk about IRELIA, we'll talk about her builds and everything that you need to know about her, her laning phase, and anything that you need to be sure of whenever you're playing IRELIA. So firstly, we're going to look over at her passive, and then we're going to look at her abilities. So her passive is Ionian Fervor. IRELIA gains 1 Ionian Fervor stack for every enemy champion hit by her abilities, or if she hits at least one non-champion, stacking up to 4 times. Ionian Fervor lasts 6 seconds, with basic attacks against champions and large and epic monsters, refreshing the duration. IRELIA's basic attack deals 4 to 17 bonus magic damage per stack, which is based on level, and 4% of bonus AD, up to 16 to 68, which is also based on level, and 16% plus bonus AD. At maximum stacks, IRELIA gains 30 to 50% bonus attack speed and deals an additional 32 to 136 magic damage against shields, which is based on level and 32% of bonus AD. This is a beautiful passive for getting off a lot of damage, considering it lasts up to 6 seconds and it does extra damage to people with shields, doing heavy amounts of damage, which is good at countering champions that do have a lot of shields, and this is why it makes her one of the best fighter champions. But this also obviously links in with her abilities, and we'll be going over to Q, which is Blade Surge. Enemy champions and large monsters hit by Flawless Duet and Vanguard's Edge, Initial Barrage, are marked for 5 seconds, consuming with Blade Surge. IRELIA dashes through the target, dealing physical damage, applying on-hit effects, and healing herself. Blade Surge deals double damage to minions. Blade Surge's cooldown is refunded if the target was marked or dies to Blade Surge. And this is one of her main abilities, which allows her to dash around, to get some poke, and to get back out. Pretty much almost like Yasuo. And then we'll look over at her W, which is Defiance Dance. Her first cast is IRELIA aligns her blades around her, gaining 1 Ionian Fervor stack and channeling for up to 1.5 seconds, during which she reduces incoming damage by 50%. Defiance Dance channel cannot be interrupted by crowd control. The second cast is after 0.07 second delay, IRELIA swipes her blades in the target direction, dealing physical damage to all enemies around her and in a line, which is increased from 0 to 100%. The second cast activates automatically towards the cursor's direction at the end of the duration. This ability comes with high defense and resistance. This is what you want to use whenever your enemy is about to burst you down. And then we have IRELIA's E, which is Flawless Duet. IRELIA sends a blade to the target location for up to 3.5 seconds. After a 0.35 second delay, Flawless Duet may be recast to send another blade out, and does so automatically at IRELIA's position if the blade would expire, though not if she is muted. Once both blades are placed, they fly towards each other after a 0.25 second delay, dealing magic damage and stunning all enemies struck for 0.75 seconds. This ability applies marks to your enemy champions, along with stunning them, and bear in mind this only works on enemy champions, so you can dash towards them twice, because every time you dash on a marked target, you always get your Q back, or if you Q someone that kills them, and then it resets your Q, and then you'll be able to carry on. So your E and Q are your main abilities, and this is why you're going to go these 2 abilities at first when you're starting the game. Then we'll look at IRELIA's ultimate, which is Vanguard's Edge. IRELIA launches a barrage of blades through a wide line in the target location, exploding outwards upon hitting a champion, dealing magic damage to all enemies struck. The blades form into a spade-shaped perimeter around the explosion for a few seconds, knocking aside all enemies, though not rendering them airborne. Enemies that pass through the blade are dealt magic damage, and are disarmed while being slowed by 60% for 1.5 seconds. So this is good to counter champions that are auto-attack based, considering Disarm was actually the new CC that was added to the game when IRELIA got reworked, which doesn't allow enemy champions to auto-attack. So now that we know what her abilities do, we'll go more in depth on what we can use her abilities for. Her Q ability is mainly used for gap closing, going on the enemy and making sure they don't escape. Q also applies on-hit effects, which is why it's good to build a Tiamat into a Titanic Hydra. It has on-hit effects, meaning every time you Q onto the enemy, you will have the passive of Tiamat going off, because remember, it only applies on a basic attack, but your Q has on-hit effects, so it will count. And every target that is killed with your Q ability heals IRELIA, which also includes minions, enemy champions, and everything else. And she does double damage to minions when she's using her Q ability, which is why it's good to farm up with them. And considering her passive requires 4 abilities to be used, you can charge it up using minions, you can stack up on 4 minions and get your passive, which allows your extra auto attack damage. And then you can use your Q to engage on the enemy to get off that extra damage, and keep on repetitively auto attacking them for getting extra damage off. IRELIA's W is mainly used for damage reduction, for reducing a lot of damage. She will actually reduce a ton of damage, and also she's immune to CC whenever she is using this ability as well. Previously on the teaser for Irelia when she came out, there was a clip of when Rakan knocks up the Irelia, but she doesn't get affected considering she had her W active. And this deals damage in a line. The direction of the W actually bases on where your mouse is hovering. Then her E ability can stun up to multiple targets. She can stun as many targets as she wants as long as they're within the 2 blades. This also deals magic damage, and marking multiple champions will also allow you to dash between them, considering they'll all be marked. Anyone within them will be marked, and you can use it to either stun them to get away or use it to engage on team fights. So her E and Q are one of the base abilities you're going to be using all the time. Then her ultimate knocks aside enemies, disarms and slows them, which also deals magic damage. This will be really good to use against auto attack champions like ADCs or Master Yi, or people who really need auto attacks to use within fights, which would be really good. And with Irelia, you gotta make sure you farm a lot. You can farm a lot with your Q as well because you'll have your passive up so you can engage with the enemy and get some trades off. You want to stun your enemy as much as you can with your E when you're about to engage. You use your W for defense, make sure you do that, and you all in when you're using your ultimate ability. This is the best time you want to all in. I don't think it's good to use like maybe at the end, or maybe sometimes it can work in 1/4 of the way of the fight, but you don't know how long the fight will last. But Irelia is really good for fights that last long as well. But when it comes to engaging on the enemy, you know they don't have any sums or anything. I think it's the best time to use your ultimate to all in your enemy, and you'll assure that they will die. This gives her massive outplay potential and also allows her to 2v1 in some situations, but you gotta be very careful about that. So now we'll talk about Irelia's runes. Now runes are a bit of a confusing situation, where as if I'm making this guide in when it's still Season 8, but Season 9 is going to be within a couple of days. And that's more based around the secondaries. But firstly, you want to go Conqueror as the keystone, because you want that true damage and your melee as well. So you'll always reset Conqueror every time you're auto-attacking. Then you want Triumph so you can restore your health after doing takedowns. Legend Alacrity so you can have the attack speed, which will synergize well with your passive. And then you can go Coop for your last rune, as you'll deal more damage to low health champions, as per usual. So normally you would go Bone Plating and Chrysalis, but Chrysalis may be removed within the next season as of what I've been hearing of now. So with that happening, I'm saying that there's multiple options. I think you can go Unflinching or Destroyer or Conditioning or Overheal, or maybe Second Wind could be a good option as well. But I'm saying you pick situationally with these things because Chrysalis is going to be removed. It was one of a good keystone that was with Irelia, so it's being changed into another rune. So for now, there's going to be other options to choose from, and there will be many suggestions on it. But for now, I will either stick to one of the runes that I've told you. So that's either Unflinching, Second Wind, Conditioning, Demolish, or Overgrowth. But you always want to stick with Bone Plating. Bone Plating is good for making trades, as you'll be highly defensive, and people will be doing less damage to you when they're engaging on you for a fight. Going Resolve second is good anyways, because you get a bunch of health along with it. Irelia is very squishy, so you need to be careful of that. So now we're going to quickly go over her builds. Now for starter items, you can go Doran's Blade, Doran's Shield, or a Corruption Potion, and you can always go a Health Potion to fill it up. But most likely, what people do is go Corruption Potion only because you get the sustain through your mana as well. So I'm highly advising that you go Corruption Potion, otherwise you can go any of the other options, because she needs to keep the sustain within her mana, because she still uses up mana even when she's queuing marked targets or when she's queuing enemies to kill. She doesn't get refunded any mana like any other champion would for killing champions or killing units. So I think Corruption Potion would be the best option here. Then on your first pack, you want to get a Tiamat. Tiamat is really good to go only because her Q applies on-hit effects, meaning every time you Q, you will get the passive of Tiamat, and then you always gonna want to get boots whenever you can. Following up with the control ward anytime you can buy it, but always try to do it on your first pack. Save up a bit of extra gold. Now for a rush selection of items, these are just items that you can potentially build on Irelia. Now when it comes to boots, you got your Ninja Tabby or your Mercury Treads. This is all based on situation. Whenever they got high AD, you want to go Ninja Tabby, especially if they have a lot of auto attack damage. And you can go Mercury Treads to reduce CC, along with giving you some magic resist as well. This will be good against champions like Swain. Randuin's Omen is a really nice option considering the active allows you to slow enemies, which allows you to gap close even more, along with applying the effect that you reduce the critical strike damage, good against fighting ADCs or people with high amounts of crit. Deadman's Plate for that high amount of move speed, along with gap closing and slowing the enemy. Thornmail for inflicting grievous wounds on the enemy. Sterak's Gauge, which is probably one of the top items to use on Irelia, considering it has tenacity and it provides a big shield when you're being burst down. This allows you to last long in team fights and to be one of your biggest team fighting assets. Spirit Visage is really nice considering it provides you with health, magic resist, and 30% extra healing, which is really good to have when you're queuing minions, because when you kill minions with your Q, you always get some health back. Wit's End is also a nice option if you want to reduce the magic resist on your enemies because it also has attack speed as well, making them a little more squishier to deal with. Bork is probably one of the top tip items when it comes to fighting because you can stay in fights longer, you get the lifesteal, you got attack speed, and you also have the Cutlass active, which allows you to slow enemies, do 100 AP damage, and to gap claws onto them. Trinity Force is probably one of the best core items that you're going to go with, along with Titanic Hydra. Trinity Force is within itself. It's already explained like how good it is. It's got overall stats along with providing you with CDR, health, attack speed, and many other things. Titanic Hydra is really good because it builds your Tiamat into itself, and that also applies on hit effects. So every time you Q a minion or any champions or anybody, the Titanic passive will also proc every time you're using it. This is really good for wave clearing and killing enemy champions, along with having the auto attack reset being a really nice thing to clear minions with also. Guardian Angel is probably one of the core items as well that you want to go for, considering it's going to bring you back to life, along with having you to be more of a threat to the enemy champions. Because even when she rises from her GA, she still has a bunch of outplay potential. She's one of the best snowballing champions to have. Then Ravenous Hydra has a bunch of lifesteal, along with also applying the on-hit effects. And then for the miscellaneous items, this is more of items you can go. So you can take Oracle in case they have like a Teemo or a Shaco or anybody that you need to use an Oracle for. You always buy control wards on your backs and make sure you have one at least up on the map every single time. And when it comes to end game, you want to get Elixir of Iron or Elixir of Wrath. Depends if you want more resistance or more damage. Now for the example of the build, this is a kind of build that you would usually build with IRELIA when in a game. Of course, your two main items are your Trinity Force and your Titanic Hydra. You will most likely build Titanic Hydra either first, or when you have your Tiamat, you can also just quickly go for your Triforce build, first building a Phage, then getting a Sheen, then getting the Stinger. Mercury Treads, of course, reducing CC and giving you that magic resist, and Sterex Gauge, like I said, gives you a bunch of outplay potential along with lasting longer in team fights. Randuin's Omen providing the slows, and Guardian Angel making you last long and being good of a snowball champion. For the summoner spells, I highly advise going Flash and Teleport because you always make it back on time onto lane, because every time you back to Fountain and then you return back to lane, you won't miss any farm and you can assure that you will get ahead within items as well. But if you want to go for the more aggressive option, there is Flash and Ignite, but the only drawback to this is if you die and don't pull off successfully with killing them and you lose your summoner spells, it means you're going to make it back to lane a lot later. So this is more of a risky option, but if you want to go for that, that is entirely up to you. Now, IRELIA is not an easy champion. She's mechanically harder than her last version of her champion, considering her E is harder to hit, and she is immobile when she's using her W, so you gotta be careful of that. E does have quite a thin line, and it's better to play with unlocked screens so you can make sure that you're holding still while you're using your Q ability, because your camera does shake a lot if you play unlocked like I do, so it's best to unlock the camera and start mechanically outplaying champions like that. And she does have quite a few hard matchups as well. One of them is Renekton. Renekton actually likes to be close to his enemy champions. He can stun them and hold them in place for a while doing his damage, and he does really hurt a lot. Garen's a champion that can silence her. Garen is pretty brain dead also. But when he uses his Q ability, IRELIA is silenced, meaning she can't use any abilities, so she's got to be very careful of that. And while she's silenced, Garen can use his E to keep continuously doing damage. And he is going to be very tanky, so I think it's best to try killing him early levels, because he also has a resistance kind of W as well, and his ultimate is a big power spike for him when he hits level 6. Wukong is pretty much a hard matchup as well, considering he can engage on you, use his abilities, and then go invisible while using his clone to stay back, and he easily escapes, leaving you damaged, and with him probably freshly with no damage at all done to him. So this is probably the time where you could take Oracle as well, but this is also when you have to have your E ready when he's about to engage you. It's hard to tell when he's going to engage you, so you got to keep your eyes open. Darius is also another dangerous champion as well, because you're not supposed to be close to him, considering he can stack his passive on you. Once he has 5 stacks, you'll be bleeding like crazy, and then he can use his ultimate to finish you off. Tryndamere is also another champion that also likes to trade for over long time periods. That's the kind of champion IRELIA is, but that's also what's going to happen if you're versing a Tryndamere. Along with him building up his rage bar, he'll also be hitting you for more, as he'll be critting, and he also likes longer trades, meaning you're going to have to be more careful when you're versing Tryndamere. You got to make sure you get him out of his ultimate, but IRELIA's ultimate actually does counter Tryndamere, considering he is auto attack based and he cannot use any basic attacks when he is disarmed by IRELIA's ultimate. However, IRELIA is strong against champions like Zed, Riven, and Gangplank, because whenever Zed engages or whenever he uses his ultimate and uses maybe like a triple Q combo or everything, you can simply block everything using your W. Yes, her W is that strong, it can block almost all of the damage that is done on an all-in. When it comes to Riven, IRELIA is a lot quicker to move than Riven, as long as there's minions and there's marked enemy champions. She can reduce a lot of of damage that comes from Riven as well. But you still gotta be careful because it could be all based down on skill matchup if the Riven is actually paying attention to your movements as well. And then Gangplank, because his barrels are pretty dodgeable considering you have your Q ability, and it's easy to take out his barrels as well. W will reduce the damage if you even end up within the barrels, meaning he will do barely any damage to you. So all in all, with Irelia, she has a lot of outplay potential, a lot of kill potential early. Her disarm ability is nearly overpowered as long as you use it right, and make sure you use it for engages, and she has nice damage and high mobility. Good for fighting enemy champions, snowballing, and making sure you last longer in fights, and to dominate the whole map. So anyways guys, that was it. That was Irelia. If you guys want to see more guides like this, or if you want to see any other champions be guided, then go ahead and put it down in the comment section below, and I will go ahead and put that down for you as well, as I have a list of guides to do now. Season 9 is coming out, and this is actually going to be amazing. It already probably is out either a couple of days after this video is uploaded or whatever, but it's going to be amazing, and I cannot wait to do the guides and the videos that are coming up for Season 9. Please drop a like and a comment and put on your notifications for me so you can see whenever my next guide comes up or whenever my next video comes up. So anyways guys, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you guys in my next video. Peace guys, and see ya.